right, I'm going to read to you the Harriet Tubman article. Following along with me, it says, Harriet Tubman, the Moses of her people. Harriet Tubman guided hundreds of slaves to freedom. Harriet was born Armarita Ross. Her family called her Minty. When she was a teenager, a slave that had been working in the fields ran off. He ran into a shop where Minty was buying yarn for her master. With his overseer hot on his trail, the overseer threw a weight at him to stop him. Minty dove in front of the man, shouting, "No!" The weight hit Minty's forehead, fracturing her skull. She would never be the same after that. She would often fall asleep without warning. Sometimes her head would drop while she was talking, and she would fall asleep. These sleeping spells made escape even more dangerous, but Minty was determined. Ben Ross, Minty's father, knew that she was committed to running away. He wanted to make sure that she made it safely whenever she decided to go. He showed her where to hide in the woods, which plants to eat, and how to run quickly and silently through the forest. He also taught her how to find her way north. Neither Minty or her parents or many of the slaves could read or write. That meant that she couldn't read a map, nor could she ask anyone for directions along the way. "See the Big Dipper in the sky?" he said one cool summer night, pointing to the stars that looked like a big ladle. "See the bright star above the bowl? That's the North Star. Follow it, and you'll be heading to freedom." Years went by, and when Minty was 28, she married John Tubman, a free man. Minty told John her plan to escape, and he asked her to come with. He simply listened with tears in his eyes. "I have a right to freedom or death," she exclaimed. "I will have one or the other. I can't live like this no more." One day, Minty found out that she had been sold. It was now or never. A few weeks before, she had met a Quaker woman riding by a horse and wagon. "God doesn't mean for people to be slaves," she whispered. "I know some people in Delaware that will help you when you're ready." A few days later, while John and everyone else was sleeping, Minty packed a sack of food and said a prayer and slipped into the night. As long as it was dark, she could move undetected, following the light of the North Star. She ran like a wolf in the night. Her sides ached, her chest burned, but she couldn't afford to stop. When she had run as far as her legs would take her, she collapsed and fell asleep. Minty awoke to the sound of barking hounds and slave owners calling her name. The sun was out, and it would be easy for them to see her. She sat up and looked around. She could hear them, but they were too far away to see her. She took off again, determined to get away. "Walk through water as much as you can," her father had said. "It will wash away your scent and the dogs won't find you." Minty saw the Delaware River just up ahead. "Dear Lord, keep me. You've gotten me this far. Hold the water still and help me cross," Minty prayed. She didn't know how to swim, but it was the only way she could escape the hounds on her trail. She heard the dogs barking, and now could hear the collars jingling in the grasses, shifting as they neared. Minty took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and walked into the river. First trip back. After Tubman escaped, she found work in Philadelphia cleaning houses and managed to save money. When she arrived in Philadelphia, she met a man named William Still. He was part of a secret organization of people that helped runaway slaves get their freedom papers. "Who brought you here?" Mr. Still asked, as Minty busted into his office, exhausted from her journey. "No one. I came by myself," Minty replied, knees shaking, struggling to stand. "You mean to tell me that you walked over 4 miles without getting caught by yourself?" Mr. Still's eyes were the size of saucers. He grabbed a chair for Minty. "What's your name?" he asked. "Armoriddle Ross Tubman, but most folks call me Minty." "No, that's your slave name. You're free now. What do you want your new name to be?" "Well, my mother's name is Harriet. They call her Rit. Call me Harriet Tubman," Harriet declared, with her head held high. "Harriet Tubman it is, then," Mr. Still replied, as he wrote it on her official papers. Mr. Still helped Harriet find a boarding house for newly free slaves. She lived there and found work cleaning houses. Though she was free, she still wasn't happy. Fugitive Slave Act. Next to being rescued, she was her brother Moses, a group of runaway slaves. By this time, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1805 was in effect, making her work more difficult and riskier. The group had reached a safe house that Harriet had used earlier, but the station master wouldn't let them in. "I'm sorry now, but y'all can't stay here no more," he explained. "They done passed that law. I could go to jail, or worse, y'all's masters will kill me. Y'all's money to them. I can't afford it. I'm sorry." Harriet led the group back into the woods. Everyone was tired and hungry. Suddenly, one of the men stopped and turned to the group with clenched fists. "I'm going back," he yelled. "It's better to be a slave than suffer like this, running, hiding. Now we've been put out. At least we had a place to stay and food to eat back there," he fumed. Harriet stood slowly in front of him, staring him in the eye. If he went back or got caught, they would beat him until he told all the secrets of the Underground Railroad. She couldn't let that happen. She pulled out her rifle and pointed it at them. "You'll try to run back now. You'll never run again. You get two choices, freedom or die. You'll put all of us in danger, and I can't have that." The man dropped his head in surrender, and the group trudged into the middle of the night. And your exit ticket is, you're going to make sure that you read. We just read that story, and you are going to create your story map. Use the story map to tell the story of the day Harriet escaped from the point of view of Minty, or a slave going with her. Your exit ticket will be on Google Classroom.